appearance test, sound test, magnetic test, spark test, weight or density test, bend test, feeling test. এই টেস্টগুলো করার মাধ্যমে আমরা বোঝার চেষ্টা করব যে কোনটা মেটাল কোনটা অ্যালয়। এই সবগুলোর নাম লেখেন তো, আর কি কি আছে এই কটাই। হ্যাঁ, এগুলোর নাম লেখেন সবাই। এই যে 7টা: appearance test, sound test, magnetic test, spark test, weight test, bend test, feeling test. সবাই লেখেন, 1 মিনিট সময়, 1 মিনিট, কুইক। আচ্ছা, দেখেন কোনটা কি, কোনটা দিয়ে আসলে কি বোঝা যাবে।
স্যার কথা একটু বেঁধে বেঁধে আসছে স্যার।
আমার এদিক দিয়ে তো ক্লিয়ার ইন্টারনেট, আপনার
স্যার ঠিকঠাক মতো শোনা যাচ্ছে স্যার সবকিছু।
তাহলে আপনার নেটের সমস্যা। So appearance tester কথা যদি বলি, in this test observe the color, luster and sorts of lines and marks on the surface of a metal. In case the surface is not clean and is covered with a scaling, then scaling may be cleared with a piece of emery paper before noting appearance. এই জন্য আমরা স্যাম্পল টেস্ট করি যে কোনটা মেটাল কোনটা অ্যালয় কোনটার কি অবস্থা। So sort of lines, marks এগুলা থাকে। তারপর sound test. In this test, strike gently the metal piece with a small hand hammer in one hand while holding the metal piece in another hand. এক হাতে ধরে আরেক হাতে হাতুড়ি দিয়ে বাড়ি দিতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? অথবা মেটাল পিসটা আপনি হাত থেকে ফ্লোরে ফেলবেন। অবশ্যই এগুলো সব ওয়ার্কশপে করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে, বাসা বাড়িতে না। এখন আলাদা এক এক ধরনের মেটাল এক এক ধরনের শব্দ করে, ওইটা দেখে আপনি বুঝতে পারবেন যে কোনটা কি, কারণ সব মেটালের শব্দ তো সেম না। এরপর হচ্ছে স্পার্ক টেস্ট। ইন দিস টেস্ট হোল্ড দ্য মেটাল পিস জেন্টলি এগেইনস্ট এ রানিং গ্রাইন্ডিং হুইল। গ্রাইন্ডিং হুইল তো দেখছেন নাকি? গ্রাইন্ডিং হুইল, গ্রাইন্ডিং মেশিন দেখছেন?
জি স্যার দেখছি।
জি স্যার দেখছি।
সেখানে যদি এটা মেটাল পিসটা ধরেন তাহলে কি স্পার্ক হবে না?
জি স্যার।
So this may produce a peculiar pattern of sparking which is observed for identification of the metal. non-ferrous metals and alloys except nickel. Nickel বাদে অন্য non-ferrous metal or alloy usually do not produce any sparking in this way. But ferrous গুলা কি স্পার্ক তৈরি করে। তারপরে স্পার্ক বললাম, সাউন্ড বললাম, weight or density test. For this test, specimens of some regular solid shape are preferable whose dimensions are measured with the help of calipers and measuring scale to find out their volumes. Then the weights of the specimens are found out with the help of a balance. নিক্তি ব্যালেন্স নিক্তির মাধ্যমে আমরা ওয়েট নিব। From these values calculate density weight per unit volume of the specimens. Different metals and alloys possess their specific values of density which help to identify them. এই ডেনসিটি আর ওয়েট দিয়ে বোঝা যাবে আসলে কোনটা মেটাল কোনটা অ্যালয়, সাধারণত কোনটার ওয়েট কেমন হয়। কারণ এক একটার অ্যাটমিক মাস এক এক রকম। এরপর হচ্ছে ম্যাগনেটিক টেস্ট। In this test, touch the metallic specimen with a piece of magnet and observe whether it attracts or not. যদি অ্যাট্রাক্ট করে তাহলে তো বুঝতে হবে যে মেটাল, তাই না? This test helps to differentiate magnetic materials like iron, nickel, cobalt and their magnetic alloys from non-magnetic metals and alloys. যদি আকর্ষণ করে তাহলে বুঝতে হবে এটা ম্যাগনেটিক, না হলে ম্যাগনেটিক না। আর মেটাল বোঝা যাবে, নন মেটাল বোঝা যাবে। এরপর হচ্ছে ব্যান্ড টেস্ট। In this test, hold one end of a metallic specimen in a bench vise with rest of the length of the specimen projecting upwards. Then the free end of the specimen is struck with a hand hammer time and again to observe the extent of bending it takes before showing signs of fracture. অর্থাৎ বেন্ড করব আমরা, এটা ইউনিভার্সাল টেস্টিং মেশিন দিয়েও করা যায়। তো বেন্ডিং মেশিন দিয়েও করা যায়। বেন্ড করে দেখবো যে কতটুকু পর্যন্ত বেন্ড হয় ফ্র্যাকচার হওয়ার আগ পর্যন্ত। The different metals and alloys differ in this property. কোন মেটাল খুব দ্রুত ফ্র্যাকচার হবে, কেউ অনেক লম্বা সময় পর্যন্ত বেন্ড হবে, সহজে ফ্র্যাকচার হবে না। Feeling test. In this test, estimate roughly the hardness possessed by the metallic specimen by trying to mark it with a small smooth file by observing its resistance to filing. ফাইল তো দেখছেন, এই যে ঘষে যে শেপ করা হয় ফাইলিং। হ্যাঁ, so in addition the inspection of the filed powder so produced is also sometimes helpful to identify something about the composition of the alloy. সেইখান থেকে বোঝা যায়। তো আসেন আমরা একে একে একটা করে ভিডিও দেখি, তাহলে বেটার হবে, যেহেতু ল্যাবে যাওয়া যাচ্ছে না। আমরা একটা একটা আসি। appearance test. Identification test.
Welcome to well.com, home of TIG time. Hi, I'm Mr. TIG. I'm at Cali County College here. This is my alma mater. I've got Bob Moffat with me, who's the head welding instructor. And in this segment, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're planning on doing some TIG welding, but we got various materials here. We don't know what they are. And, you know, there's certain things you can look at and kind of give you an idea. But I'm going to turn this over to Bob because he's got several ideas on what the material is and how to test them. So, Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to have you.
Hey, you've got, looks like a little bit of everything here. So show me how you identify, how you would tell your students out there what metal they're about to weld.
Okay. If we just take the grinder and rub this piece on the grinder, we're going to get some kind of a spark stream off of it if it's carbon steel. And I expect that the stream would be fairly long. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so what we had was something that was fairly long.
এখানে যে স্পার্ক গুলো আছে এটা লম্বা, ঠিক আছে? স্পার্ক গুলো অনেক দূর পর্যন্ত যাচ্ছে। দেখেন কি বলে তারপর।
Notice we have what we call this finger burst thing coming off of it. That would indicate some carbon in the steel.
Okay, so because of the length of it, you'd say be low carbon in?
I would say low carbon and or mild. Okay.
সো সেটা এইটা স্পার্ক টেস্ট করে বুঝতে পারলে এটা লো কার্বন মাইল্ড স্টিল।
Take another piece of the pipe or even the square stock here, and we could grind on it for a second. Again, fairly long, so and yellow. Okay, so we know that that's mild steel.
Okay.
Now, something that is higher carbon steel, but not yet cast. Okay, something with a higher carbon steel, that spark stream is going to get shorter, and it's going to have more burst to it. It's going to really flare out and sparkle quite a bit more and a lot shorter away from the grinder. That would indicate a lot higher carbon. This is old-time cast iron. Now, what do we know about cast iron?
A lot of carbon
plus. This is old-time. I'll just say that this piece is 100 years old.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to have to clean this up to make a repair later on. So I don't mind grinding on it a little bit. Not getting much of a spark at all.
It looks like it made very little.
দেখছেন এটার মধ্যে তেমন কোনো স্পার্কই হয় নাই, এটা ক্যাস্ট আয়রন।
Progress as you ground, so
It's
pretty.
got a lot of carbon in it.
I could barely see the color.
Yeah.
As you were sparking.
Another way, you know, this is a break. Another way, if you've done some research or taken some classes in materials and material testing, is you can tell by this grain structure. What does this break look like? We used to use a lot of drift pins where we're bolting things up, multiple bolt hole circles that don't, you know, when you fabricate them, they're not perfectly round, but they're going to bolt up.
Yeah.
And we're slamming these drift pins in. It's like an iron worker goes up and they're bolting the beams together, and they've got what they call a pin and wrench. Okay, that's a high carbon piece of steel that's tapered. It'll take a beating. It won't take any sideways. It's pretty brittle when you go sideways with it. And that fracture is a real close grain pack where you look at this and it's kind of rough. Okay, so yeah, you know, it's interesting when you get into the pieces of carbon steel and what they're alloyed with. Another simple test is just a plain old magnet. Carbon steel magnetized. So we're
এই যে দেখেন কার্বন স্টিল গুলা ম্যাগনেটাইজড হবে। ম্যাগনেট দিয়ে যদি ম্যাগনেট কাছে নেন তাহলে অ্যাট্রাক্ট করে লেগে যাবে একটার সাথে আরেকটা।
picking this thing up. It's pretty good size. Cast iron. we're magnetized.
ক্যাস্ট আয়রন ম্যাগনেটাইজ হালকা হবে কিন্তু অত ভালো হবে না। টাংস্টেন হোল্ডার একেবারেই হবে না, নন ম্যাগনেটাইজড। এটা দিয়ে বুঝতে পারবেন যে আসলে কোনটা কি ধরনের।
I wouldn't be able to tell what that was. I could see that it's a fitting, but I really wouldn't know what it was. But this has that copper color to it that we can appreciate. Now, if we ground on this or sanded on it, we're going to get a spark.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. It doesn't have any carbon to it. There's no steel to it. And that's where your spark per se is coming from. A couple other samples here. We've got some thin-walled stainless tubing. Are all stainless grades of stainless non-magnetic? Most of them are non-magnetic, but there's one series of stainless steel that is.
Yeah, you get into the 400 series.
So again, we've got some color brightness here. See, we've got three metals here that they kind of look the same. We haven't picked them up. We don't. They're different thicknesses.
Very good. Yeah,
But they kind of look the same, do they not?
they do. They do.
We'll pick this one up, and it's fairly light. It's got some heft to it. That's pretty light.
Okay.
That's a
আবার ওই যে
little
ওয়েট দেখে হাতে ধরে ওয়েট কত কার কোনটা ভারী হালকা সেটা দেখে অনেক কিছু বোঝা যায়।
heavier. So these welds have they're gone. They're burnished off. They're flat with the parent metal. So how do we identify this? Let's stand them up and see if we can get a spark test off of them. We've got a spark coming off of here that's kind of a dull red.
Yeah.
And it's not real long. It's just kind of out here away from the grinder. And it's kind of a dull red, meaning it's got some carbon to it. But what else would it have in it that creates that dull red? Some chrome and nickel.
Possibly.
I'm going with stainless on that. A non-magnetic series of stainless. Let's take this one here. Again, these two look pretty similar. We'll see if we can get a spark off this one.
এর মধ্যে তেমন স্পার্কি পাওয়া যাচ্ছে।
No spark whatsoever. And then we look at the edge where we ground on it, real bright and shiny.
Yeah, looks pretty soft too.
Yeah, I got to go with aluminum on that. No spark whatsoever. By the way, it's not preferred to be grinding on aluminum with just a regular grinding wheel. They make
এটা অ্যালুমিনিয়াম প্লেট।
grinding wheels specifically for aluminum that look pretty much like this. So,
Okay.
That's one of those safety issues we want to get into. We don't want to grind aluminum with a regular wheel designed for carbon steel on stainless because it'll load that thing up and take a chance of exploding. So, as far as the color, these two look pretty close. They're kind of a dull gray. This one's been sitting out in the weather. This one, what is this? It's not heavy like the stainless is, and it's not lightweight like the aluminum is. So what's left? What do we think this is?
I don't know, something like unobtainium.
Unobtainium. You're welding on alloys I've never heard of. What kind of filler wire you use for that? Let's do a spark test and see what we get off of it.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
That's different.
White.
What is that?
White.
That's
দেখেন এখানে স্পার্কের যে প্যাটার্ন সেটা একটু ডিফারেন্ট। শুরুর দিকে একত্র হয়ে তারপরে এইভাবে বের হচ্ছে, বিচ্ছিন্ন না, সব একসাথে আসতেছে, ঠিক আছে?
white sparkle show. What is that?
Well, it turns out that that's titanium.
Wow. So why does it produce such a white stream? Why is it so
You know, it
kind
doesn't.
of prevalent too? It was getting out there and producing quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It has no carbon in it whatsoever. That's one thing.
তো এটা হচ্ছে টাইটানিয়াম।
Huh.
There, yeah, 6.4 titanium, 6% aluminum, 4% vanadium.
But aluminum has no spark. Interesting.
So we've covered quite a bit. So let me recap here. Let's go from the start. That was deemed to be steel, kind of a mild steel.
মাইল্ড স্টিলের দেখেন বৈশিষ্ট্যগুলোরা বলছে
Low carbon
সাধারণত হয় লং, ইয়েলো ইন কালার এন্ড মডারেট বার্স্টস। আদার ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক হচ্ছে হেভি, হার্ড এন্ড ম্যাগনেটিক। আপনি চুম্বক ধরলে আকর্ষণ করবে।
The spark plugs were red.
এই ধরনের যদি বৈশিষ্ট্য থাকে তাহলে তাকে বলা হবে মাইল্ড স্টিল।
They shot out here quite a ways. This was deemed to be what?
Those are cast iron. Old time cast iron.
সো ক্যাস্ট আয়রনের বৈশিষ্ট্য হচ্ছে আপনার স্পার্ক হবে খুবই শর্ট, ইয়েলো ইন কালার, আ ফিউ স্পার্কস। আর আদার ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক হচ্ছে হেভি, খুবই হার্ড হবে এবং ম্যাগনেটিক।
Okay, so the little sparkles coming off here, those hard to even see. So that represents about a higher carbon content. Okay, so then we went to this right here, which looks like copper.
কপারের তো কোনো ধরনের স্পার্কই হবে না। আদার ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক হচ্ছে কপারের যে কালার থাকে সেটা, এবং কপার হচ্ছে নন ম্যাগনেটিক।
You know, and it's non-magnetic, so we checked that. And yes, it's very much what you'd see down at the hardware store. Okay, then we went to this one. Again, weight was a factor. The grinding on it, it ground very quickly and easily. It kind of smeared when it ground. So it's soft, no sparks at all. So yeah, so we know that that's
অ্যালুমিনিয়ামের বৈশিষ্ট্য হচ্ছে কোনো স্পার্ক হবে না, লাইট ওয়েট, হালকা, সফট এন্ড নন ম্যাগনেটিক। ওরা যখন ম্যাগনেট ধরছে তখন ম্যাগনেটে অ্যাট্রাক্ট করে না, এবং অ্যালুমিনিয়াম তো তুলনামূলক সফট হয় আর লাইট ওয়েট।
alloy of aluminum. Okay, and then this one right here looks really good, looks shiny.
এরপরে যে স্পেসিমেনটা ধরে আছে সেটা হচ্ছে শাইনি, এটা হেভি, আর যেহেতু ম্যাগনেট ধরে দেখছে নন ম্যাগনেটিক। স্পার্ক লং হয়, রেডিশ হয়, রেডিশ ইন কালার।
And at first you think, gosh, it possibly could be
এটা
titanium.
অ্যাকচুয়ালি টাইটানিয়াম।
Spark test on it. Non-magnetic. Spark test proved to have a couple of little. It produced a spark. Yeah. So. So that would. Be
সরি, এটা লাইকলি স্টেইনলেস।
stainless, and of course this one was so pronounced where you get the really bright white sparkles. That's kind of a characteristic of titanium.
আর এটা হচ্ছে টাইটানিয়াম, লাইট ওয়েট, নন ম্যাগনেটিক, হোয়াইট ইন কালার, মেনি বার্স্টস, টাইটানিয়াম।
Again, non-magnetic. So, you know, we'll continue to find other materials and identify them for you in all kinds of ways. This is just kind of a cheap and dirty way. If you don't have any instrumentation, you know, we just got the grinder, a magnet, eyesight, and a little bit of knowledge. Well, Bob, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for having us at your place. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Take time.
আমি এই ভিডিওর লিংকটা আপনাদের দিয়ে দিচ্ছি, আপনারা দেখবেন আবার প্রয়োজনে। আহ ওকে, এরপরে হচ্ছে ম্যাগনেটিক টেস্ট দেখানো হলো, স্পার্ক টেস্ট, ওয়েট, অ্যাপিয়ারেন্স দেখতে কেমন। আচ্ছা, ফিলিং টেস্ট, সাউন্ড টেস্ট, বেন্ড টেস্ট, ফাইলিং। দেখেন এটা একটু ভালো। এমনি সাউন্ড শোনা যাচ্ছে তো ঠিক মতো নাকি ভিডিওর?
জি স্যার।
ওকে,
জি স্যার।
দেখেন।
I'm Garrett Georgian, Materials Application Engineer at MTS Systems. Today we'll cover the basics of a bend test, which is used to determine the flexural properties of a material. Bend tests can be broken down into two different categories, 3-point and 4-point bend tests. These are often performed in order to acquire data about the sample, such as flexural stress and strain. Depending on what standards you're testing to, samples may vary between plastics, ceramics, metals, and more. For this test, we will be using three main pieces of equipment: a load frame, a load cell, and a bend fixture. Our MTS Criterion C43504 load frame is equipped with an MTS 2.5 kilonewton load cell. The fundamental bend fixture is attached to the load cell and the base of the frame. To measure deflection, we will be using the frame's crosshead encoder. Alternatively, we could use MTS's 63206 displacement gauge to measure sample deflection. The equipment we are using today is set up to meet standards ASTM D790 and ISO 178. MTS has the capability to meet the requirements for a variety of bend test standards. The specimen is placed in the testing area and centered under the upper fixture. To assist with this, our bend fixture has integrated alignment pins. After the test is complete, we can remove the specimen from the test space and return the load frame to its original position. Once in the review screen, we can export and analyze our results. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't done so already, please watch.
বেন্ডিংটা ক্লিয়ার না।
Here, these are the reinforcement bar that is selected for the band test, and in this diameter is of 8 mm and 12 mm. Now, here is the two category. One is the normal reinforcement bar and another one is a reinforcement bar which is provided with a galvanized processed coating. So here this surface that is completely chemically processed on the reinforcement bar, so it will be very much helpful to protect the bar against the corrosion. Now we are trying to see that actually in this type of bar, when we bend this bar, so what happened? This processed coating that will be damaged or not, that we want to see in this experiment actually. Here this is a bar of 8 mm and it's a normal reinforcement bar.
দেখেন বেন্ড হচ্ছে।
Now here a bar is of 12 mm and it is a normal reinforcement bar. So again it is also will try to bend up to 90 degree.
বেন্ড হতে সময় লাগে একটু, কারণ এটা তো হেভি মেটাল, চাপ দিলেই বাঁকা হয়ে যাবে, বাঁকা না সময় লাগবে, কিন্তু 12 মিলিমিটার thickness। Now this is a galvanized coated bar and it is of 8 mm bar, and now it will be loaded and load will be increased by some incremental manner and it will be bend up to 90 degree.
Now this is last element of that reinforcement bar, and it is of 12 mm and with galvanized processed bar. Now let us see that
Miller Weldmaster manufactures easy to use people.
হ্যালো, বলো। না, এখন আসেনি। তাই হয়ে গেছে বিল। আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে, ওকে।
PVC welders that create durable, long-lasting.
সো অ্যাকচুয়ালি এক এক ধরনের মেটাল এক এক ভাবে বেন্ডিং হবে, কোনটা বেশি সময় লাগবে, কোনটা কম সময় লাগবে, কোনটা ফ্র্যাকচার হইতে টাইম লাগবে, এই হচ্ছে আপনার বেন্ডিং। হ্যাঁ, আর ফাইলিং এর ব্যাপারটা একটু দেখেন।
Just using a foil and a magnet. So start with steel. Everyone knows what steel is. It's a magnetic. It's rubbish, basically. Well, not rubbish, but a steel. So you're only going to get 10 pence a kilo on that. So then we got cast steel. So again, magnetic. You know it's cast because it goes by the name. It's been cast in a mold. So more yard, they give you basically the same price for cast as normal iron. I think if you have like a ton or something, you'll get a bit of a better price on the cast. But for the amount I come across as an e-waste scrapper, I don't get much cast iron, to be honest. So yeah, so that's the steel. So now onto the aluminium. So we have just sheet aluminium. This bit I bent up just to get it in the vise. Obviously it's not magnetic. So aluminium, good way you can always check, just a quick way. Aluminium soft, easily scratchable. You feel it digs in, no problem. So that's one way. Again, just scratches really easy. Aluminium, it's always light, so that's easy enough to determine what that is. Everyone knows what that is. Again, same as the cast steel. So
অ্যালুমিনিয়ামে খুব ইজিলি স্ক্র্যাচ ফালানো যায়।
we've cast aluminium. Again, there, that will do. Again, so this is just cast aluminium.
কাস্ট অ্যালুমিনিয়াম, ম্যাগনেটিক অ্যাট্রাকশন নাই।
Also you get zinc, which is very similar to cast aluminium. It's got the same sort of texture on the outside. To be honest, most yards, they just take this zinc with your cast aluminium. So again, it's soft, so you can scratch it. Scratch is really easy, just using the edge of the magnet. Yeah, if you use a foil, it comes off in like little chunks. If you look at it closely, find it. You can see because it's soft, it just digs in, so it comes out in little chunks. And we have extruded aluminium. So basically, what that means, it's been pushed through a machine. So all these little bits here, where there's air now, was aluminium before. So it's been machined. So you get this on the heat sinks in computers, heat sinks on most circuit boards. So again, it's aluminium. It's not magnetic. Always get that nice sound. Exactly the same as cast, that just come off in chunks when you try and file it down. Again, that scratch is really easy. Can't really do it with one hand, to be honest. Should have put it in the vise. So you can see there, scratch is really easy. Right, so now onto stainless steel. So
এতক্ষণ যা দেখাচ্ছে সব বিভিন্ন ধরনের অ্যালুমিনিয়াম, এখন স্টেনলেস স্টিল দেখাচ্ছে।
again, it's very, very, very slightly magnetic, very, very slightly.
খুবই slight magnetic, খুবই slight.
Smaller, you just be able to get a slight pull on it. Usually it's with like cookware, anything where it can rust a lot, so the inside of dishwashers. And if you try and use a file on it, it's really hard, like steel. So it's really hard to
এটাকে যদি ফাইল করতে যান সহজে কিন্তু ফাইল হবে না।
scratches. Where is it? There it is.
হালকা স্ক্র্যাচ পড়বে।
Scratches, but it's not like aluminium. It won't come off in chunks because it's very hard.
কিন্তু কোনো চাঙ্ক বের করতে পারবে না, যে ঘষা ম্যাটেরিয়াল কমাই ফেলাবেন সেটা অত সহজে হবে না।
Not magnetic.
চাঙ্ক মানে তো বুঝেন, ঘষলে যেটা বের হয়ে আসে।
জি স্যার।
Magnetic pull on it. It's nearly always shiny. Like I say, it's in anything that rusts, so which may rust, so cookware, anything that gets wet a lot. So that's stainless. Right, so now we're on to brass. So this is out of a light switch. So brass, again, non-magnetic. When you're taking brass in, if it has a little bit of copper on there, you can always leave a little bit of copper on, because brass has copper in there. You want to take any iron off it, otherwise you're going to get like a dirty brass price. And brass,
এটা হচ্ছে ব্রাস। কি বলে সেটাকে মনোযোগ দিয়ে শুনুন।
there we go. So when you scratch it, you'll get that kind of goldy yellow look to it. There we go, if we get it in the light. So that's one brass. So you get the yellowy sort of tinge underneath. So that's brass. And then this is white brass out of an antenna. So that's out of a stereo. So just file that down. Again, non-magnetic, because it's brass. If we can get this in the light, you can see on identify, just give it a good scratch, or a good file down, should I say. Then we have lead. This is the only bit of lead I had at the moment. Well, I've got a few other bits like this, but yeah, I weighed in my lead quite recently. So lead, really malleable, so it moves around. It's really soft. As you can see here, look how easily it scratches. I'm not putting
এক মিনিট।
see here, look how easily it scratches. I'm not putting, it's literally the weight of the file that scratches really easy. If you want to taste it, it probably tastes like pencil lead, but I don't really go down that route, to be honest. So that's lead, and it's always heavy. Lead's pretty heavy for what it is. Like this little bit here, oh, there's not much air, but it's got a good bit of weight to it. To be honest, it's a little bit lighter. There's a good weight to lead. You can tell what lead is, definitely, especially if you buy a roll of lead and pick it up, deceiving how heavy it actually is. Then we have number one, copper. So as everyone knows, copper is not magnetic, even though it's used in motors where they use the magnetic force. And then most things you can tell which are copper. As soon as you see them, you know it's copper, but you can give it a little bit of a file down. In copper, you get that nice red, coppery color to it. Don't know if I can get, there we go. So it's like a browny red kind of color to it underneath. And then we have copper number 2. So copper number 2 is anything with like a lacquer, painted. Basically, it's anything which, if it's got like a covering of anything, that's copper number 2. So this is out of a TV yoke. It's solid because it's got like the lacquer on there, which keeps it shape. I hammer these down just to get more room in my bucket or in my tub. So I just hammer them flat. Otherwise, I take up too much space as they are. And yeah, copper number 2 is basically anything which is super thin. So they say copper number 1 is anything the size of the lead on a pencil or bigger. So that would be copper number 1. Anything thinner than that, which you can see little strands on this one, is copper number 2. So guys, I don't think I missed anything out. So yeah, hopefully this helps you out. On anyone who's new to scrapping, anyone who's been scrapping a while is gonna just overlook this video and say, "What are you trying to teach me how to suck eggs?" But anyone who's starting out, hopefully this will help them out, determine what metals are what. Like I say, if you're out and about, all I do, I've got a little bag like this, and all I keep in there is a file, wire cutters, a magnet, and that's all you really need, to be honest, when you're trying to determine metals when you're out and about. Yeah, I keep a couple of screwdrivers in there, obviously. So yeah, hopefully guys, this helps you out, and keep scrapping.
এই ভিডিওটা ভালো, এই লিংকটা আমি দিয়ে দিচ্ছি। এখানে 22 জন কমেন্ট করছে, কিন্তু ক্লাসে আমি সর্বোচ্চ দেখছিলাম 20 জন, আমি সহ 21 জন দেখছিলাম আর কি। তার মানে 2 জন শুধু শুধু কমেন্ট করে চলে গেছে আর কি। এই যে এখনো কমেন্ট করতেছে ক্লাস না করে। আমি এখন রোল কল করব, ঠিক আছে? আমি শেয়ার স্টপ করে দিচ্ছি, আপনারা সবাই ক্লাসে থাকেন। এখন রোল কল করা হবে আর 2 মিনিট পরে, এই আজান শেষ হোক আর কি। জমা দিতে হবে, অ্যাসাইন করে দিচ্ছি, ঠিক আছে? আপনারা সাবমিট করবেন যেভাবে এর আগের গুলা সাবমিট করছেন। দেখেন অলরেডি চলে গেছে মানে আপনাদের কাছে গেছে। আচ্ছা, এবার কে বলতেছিলেন যেন, নাম কি? শাকিল না?
স্যার
কি জানি নাম, এই মোবাইলে চার্জ চলে যাচ্ছে, কে জানি নাম্বার। ঠিক আছে, আমি ডাকতেছি।